Jam is reportedly in critical condition after being attacked while incarcerated. The man who allegedly became one of the most important cooperating witnesses in the federal case against Lil Durk was reportedly stabbed behind bars, and many people immediately connected the attack to his cooperation with the government. But this story is about much more than a prison attack. The events that allegedly led to this moment involve more than a decade behind bars, a dramatic return home, serious federal allegations, a firearms arrest, and a relationship with the people around him that reportedly changed completely over time. At the center of the story is Casey Hester, known publicly as Jam. According to the narrative surrounding the case, Jam went from being someone who had spent years protecting his silence to becoming a potential government witness against one of Chicago's biggest rap stars. How did that happen? The story begins with a man walking out of prison after more than 12 years behind bars. After that amount of time, almost everything can change. The streets are different. The music industry is different. Old relationships may have disappeared, while new ones have taken their place. For Jam, however, the transition back into society was reportedly made easier by one important fact: the people from his former circle had not forgotten him. Casey Hester had been convicted of attempted murder in 2010 and was released after serving approximately 12 years. When he returned home in February 2022, he reportedly received a welcome that immediately attracted attention. According to widely circulated accounts, Lil Durk allegedly welcomed Jam home with approximately $50,000 in cash and access to new vehicles. The exact details of that welcome have been widely discussed by commentators and people following the case. Regardless of the precise value of what was given, the larger message was clear: Jam was reportedly considered important within that circle. This was not viewed as an ordinary welcome home celebration. To many observers, it appeared to represent loyalty in action. A man had spent more than a decade in prison, kept quiet, and returned home to people who were ready to show him appreciation. But federal prosecutors have presented a much darker interpretation. According to the government's allegations, Jam's return was not simply about friendship or generosity. Prosecutors allege that he was welcomed back into an environment where he could allegedly serve as a trusted and experienced participant in a broader criminal operation. To understand the allegations, it is important to separate the public music organization from the criminal accusations being made in court. Only the Family, commonly known as OTF, is a Chicago-based music collective and record label associated with Lil Durk. The organization has achieved major commercial success and built a substantial audience through music. Lil Durk, whose legal name is Dirk Devontae Banks, became one of the most successful artists to emerge from Chicago's drill scene and reached new levels of mainstream success during the height of his career. However, federal prosecutors have alleged that criminal activity existed alongside the legitimate music business. The government has accused specific individuals connected to Durk's circle of participating in a criminal conspiracy involving acts of violence and retaliation. Prosecutors allege that Durk played a leadership role in directing or influencing certain actions. Those are allegations, and they remain subject to the legal process. Not every artist, employee, or associate connected to OTF is accused of participating in criminal activity. The government's case focuses on specific people and specific alleged conduct. According to prosecutors, Jam was one of the individuals with enough proximity to the alleged activities to provide investigators with important information about what was happening behind the scenes. After returning home, Jam allegedly became increasingly active in ways that began attracting serious attention. According to accounts and public discussions surrounding the case, people close to him reportedly became concerned about the level of attention his alleged activities were generating. That brings us to one of the most widely discussed allegations in the story. According to accounts surrounding the investigation, Lil Durk allegedly pulled Jam aside during a music video shoot for a private conversation. The alleged conversation reportedly took place in a bathroom. According to the version of events that has circulated publicly, Durk allegedly told Jam to slow down because his alleged activities were bringing too much attention, and what Jam was allegedly involved in remains unclear, but the people around him were concerned enough to confront him directly. Then came the federal firearms arrest. In May 2023, Jam was taken into custody on a federal gun charge. For someone who had only recently returned home after serving 12 years in prison, another federal case represented a serious threat. Federal firearms charges alone can carry severe penalties, and the pressure becomes even greater when they are connected to a broader investigation. According to accounts surrounding the case, investigators confronted Jam with information about his alleged connection to multiple homicides. The conversation was reportedly about far more than the gun charge. Authorities allegedly made it clear that they had information about his activities and wanted him to cooperate by sharing what he knew about the people around him. At first, Jam reportedly refused. That decision was significant. Even while facing another federal prosecution and being confronted with allegations involving violent crimes, he initially maintained his silence. After spending 12 years in prison without cooperating against others, the expectation from those around him, and perhaps from Jam himself, may have been that he would continue following the same code. At least in the beginning, that is exactly what he did. But eventually something changed. According to the accounts described in the story, Jam's child's mother reached out to Lil Durk seeking financial assistance to help Jam hire a strong defense attorney. She reportedly pleaded for support, emphasizing the seriousness of the federal case and the possibility that Jam could face another lengthy prison sentence. The story alleges that Durk did not provide the requested help. For someone sitting in federal custody, that could have been a turning point. Jam had already spent more than a decade behind bars. After returning home, he allegedly remained connected to the same circle of people. Now he was facing federal consequences again. Yet, according to the account, the people he may have expected to support him were not there when he needed them. That can change the entire calculation. In an environment built around loyalty and silence, there is often an unspoken expectation. You protect the people around you, refuse to cooperate with authorities, and remain loyal when things become difficult. In return, the people benefiting from that loyalty are expected to stand behind you when you need help. The story portrays Jam as believing that he had fulfilled his side of that arrangement for years. But when he found himself facing another serious case, he allegedly concluded that the other side had not done the same for him. At that point, cooperation may have begun to look less like betrayal and more like a way to survive. Investigators already had him in custody. They were reportedly building a broader case and confronting him with information about alleged violent crimes. Jam then faced a decision: continue carrying the consequences alone or begin providing information to federal authorities. According to prosecutors, Jam ultimately became a key cooperating witness in the case against Lil Durk. The allegations surrounding his cooperation are particularly significant. Jam reportedly wore a concealed recording device and provided information to investigators over an extended period, allegedly lasting close to 2 years. 2 years is a long time to operate in that position. It would mean continuing to interact with people who trusted him, people he had known for years, while allegedly reporting important conversations and information back to federal investigators. According to the allegations, Jam was not simply handing investigators a list of names. He was reportedly participating in the investigation from inside the circle, collecting conversations and evidence without others knowing. Those alleged recordings eventually became an important part of the investigation that led to Lil Durk's arrest in October 2024. If prosecutors' allegations are accurate, the recordings could provide something that phone records and financial documents cannot always capture: direct conversations, personal relationships, intentions, and details about events from someone with first-hand access. That is exactly why a cooperating witness with inside knowledge can be so valuable to federal prosecutors. But the story takes an even darker turn. Prosecutors have made serious allegations involving threats and violence connected to the cooperation investigation. According to the account presented here, Jam's child's mother was allegedly targeted after authorities learned of his cooperation. The allegation is that violence was used as a form of intimidation, an attempt to pressure Jam into remaining silent and discourage him from continuing to work with investigators. If true, the effect was reportedly the opposite. Instead of causing Jam to withdraw from the investigation, the events allegedly strengthened his determination to cooperate. Whatever loyalty or hesitation remained the danger surrounding Jam did not simply disappear because he had been placed in a different housing assignment. According to reports, The attack left him in critical condition. As soon as news of the stabbing spread, speculation immediately followed. Many people connected the attack to Jam's alleged cooperation in the case against Lil Durk. That explanation may ultimately prove correct, or the full circumstances may reveal a more complicated picture. What is clear, however, is the significance of the timing. A man expected to testify in one of the most high-profile federal cases in recent rap history was reportedly stabbed while incarcerated before he had the opportunity to take the witness stand. Regardless of who was responsible or what the motive may have been, the incident immediately became one of the most widely discussed developments surrounding the Durk case. To understand how Jam became such an important figure, it is necessary to look at the broader allegations against Lil Durk. Federal prosecutors have accused Durk of participating in and directing a murder-for-hire conspiracy that they say was connected to retaliation following the death of King Von, Durk's close friend and fellow label associate. King Von was killed in November 2020 after a confrontation outside an Atlanta lounge involving Quando Rondo's group. According to prosecutors, a plan was later developed to target Quando Rondo. In August 2022, an alleged hit team reportedly traveled from Chicago to Los Angeles. The intended target survived. However, Quando Rondo's cousin, Xavier Robinson, widely known as Lil PAB, was fatally shot during the incident. Lil Durk was arrested by federal authorities in Florida in October 2024. He has pleaded not guilty to the charges against him. The case involves multiple defendants and has drawn enormous public attention because of the seriousness of the allegations and Durk's status as one of the most prominent figures in modern rap. Prosecutors have sought to introduce a wide range of evidence, including music videos, song lyrics, text messages, phone records, financial transactions, and testimony from cooperating witnesses. The admissibility of Durk's music and videos has also been the subject of major legal arguments. His defense team is expected to challenge the government's case aggressively, and witnesses such as Jam, along with other alleged associates who may cooperate with authorities, could become a major focus of that battle. One of the most important questions is what Jam can allegedly tell investigators about the conversations, decisions, and relationships at the center of the government's case. When the entire story is placed into one timeline, the sequence is striking. According to the account presented by prosecutors and various reports, Jam went to prison in 2010 following an attempted murder case. He spent approximately 12 years behind bars and was released in 2022. The story claims that when he returned home, he received an extravagant welcome that allegedly included cash and expensive vehicles, a reception that, if accurately described, suggested that he remained highly valued by the people around him. He allegedly returned to the same environment and became increasingly active. According to the story, concerns grew among people within his circle about the attention and pressure his alleged activities were attracting. There are also allegations that Durk personally warned him to slow down because the growing attention could bring unwanted scrutiny to everyone connected to the group. Jam allegedly continued. Then, in 2023, he was arrested on a federal firearms charge. Investigators reportedly confronted him with information about other alleged crimes and encouraged him to cooperate. At first, Jam allegedly refused and remained silent, but the situation later changed. According to the account, Jam's child's mother sought financial help for his legal defense. The story alleges that the support Jam expected never arrived. Facing a serious federal case and the possibility of another lengthy prison sentence, Jam reportedly made a different decision. He began cooperating. Prosecutors allege that he spent an extended period assisting investigators and secretly recording conversations that could be relevant to their case. Then came another alleged turning point. Federal prosecutors have made serious allegations concerning violence and intimidation connected to the investigation. According to the government's theory, the events surrounding Jam's cooperation further strengthened his decision to continue working with authorities rather than abandon the process. The result, according to the prosecution's case, was that Jam became a potentially critical witness. Then, while incarcerated and awaiting the opportunity to testify, he was reportedly attacked and stabbed. From the outside, each event appears to lead into the next. Prison, release, renewed alleged involvement, a federal arrest, an initial refusal to cooperate, an alleged breakdown in loyalty, cooperation. The word snitching has been used constantly in public discussions about Jam. But it is important to distinguish between the cultural meaning of that word and the legal meaning of what he is accused of doing. In street culture, snitching generally refers to providing information to law enforcement that results in legal consequences for people within one's own circle. The stigma attached to that label can be severe and long-lasting. From that perspective, the circumstances behind the cooperation may not matter. The pressure someone faced, the loyalty they believe was broken, or the losses they experienced may not change how their actions are viewed. Once the label is attached, it can become permanent. The legal system, however, uses a different framework. The formal term is cooperation. Federal prosecutors regularly rely on cooperating witnesses in complex cases involving multiple defendants, criminal organizations, or alleged conspiracies. In exchange for truthful and useful assistance, a cooperating witness may receive consideration that can affect charges, sentencing, or other aspects of their case. That does not mean the witness automatically becomes credible. In fact, cooperation creates an obvious issue for both sides at trial. For prosecutors, someone with inside knowledge can provide information that documents, phone records, and financial transactions may not fully explain. For the defense, that same witness presents an opportunity for attack. Dirk's attorneys can challenge Jam's motives, question his credibility, highlight his criminal history, and argue that he has strong personal reasons to tell investigators what they want to hear. The defense may argue that a cooperating witness has too much to gain to be accepted without skepticism. They can ask whether his testimony was influenced by the possibility of reduced punishment or other benefits. The prosecution, meanwhile, is expected to argue that any witness testimony is supported by independent evidence, including recordings, communications, financial records, and other material collected during the investigation. Ultimately, the credibility of witnesses such as Jam may become one of the most important questions for the jury. Because in a case of this magnitude, the outcome may depend not only on what a witness says, but on whether the evidence convinces the jury that the witness is telling the truth. The battle over Jam's credibility could become one of the defining issues of the entire trial. There are two very different ways people interpret his decision to cooperate. On one side are those who see Jam as someone who betrayed the code he once lived by. From that perspective, he came home after more than a decade in prison to what was allegedly a generous welcome. He was reportedly supported by people within his circle, benefited from their connections, and then eventually spent years providing information to federal investigators. For those critics, his alleged cooperation represents a clear betrayal. Some have even interpreted the reported prison attack as the street's response to that decision, a punishment for crossing a line that, in their world, is considered permanent. But there is another side to the story. That interpretation sees Jam as a man who spent 12 years in prison without cooperating against anyone. After his release, he allegedly returned to an environment where loyalty and expectations went hand in hand. According to the allegations, he became involved in increasingly dangerous situations connected to the people around him. Then, when he found himself facing serious federal charges, the support he expected allegedly failed to appear. According to this version of events, Jam remained loyal for years. He served his time, kept quiet, returned home, and allegedly continued working within the same circle. But when the moment came for others to support him, particularly when legal help was needed, he reportedly found himself on his own. Combined with the serious allegations surrounding the death of his child's mother, that may have changed everything. From that perspective, Jam eventually reached a point where there was nothing left for him to protect by remaining silent. Neither interpretation can be treated as the complete and final truth. Both perspectives exist within the larger story, and both reflect the complicated environment in which these events allegedly unfolded. That moral complexity is one reason the case has attracted attention far beyond the usual rap audience. There are still major questions that remain unanswered. The identity of whoever carried out the reported attack on Jam in prison has not been officially established publicly. The full extent of the information he allegedly provided to investigators is also not completely known beyond what has appeared in court filings and public reports. It is also unclear exactly what benefits, if any, Jam may receive in exchange for his cooperation. And perhaps most importantly, the public has not yet heard the full version of what his testimony could be when he eventually takes the witness stand. These are not minor details. They are some of the central questions, but a courtroom operates on a completely different timeline. The most important answers are supposed to come under oath, through testimony, evidence, and cross-examination before a jury that must evaluate the entire picture. At its core, Jam's story is about a man caught between two very different worlds. He came home from prison to a world that allegedly welcomed him back with money, status, and loyalty. He reportedly returned to the life and relationships he already knew. Then federal investigators entered the picture and, according to the allegations, gave him a choice. What makes the story so compelling and so complicated is that his alleged path toward cooperation was not shaped by a single event. It was the result of an entire chain of circumstances. 12 years in prison, a high-profile welcome home, allegations of renewed criminal activity, a federal gun charge, the reported struggle to secure legal representation, the devastating allegations involving the mother of his child, and finally, a decision to cooperate that allegedly placed his own life in even greater danger. The people who view Jam as a traitor will focus on the code they believe he broke. Those who see him differently will focus on everything that allegedly happened before he made the decision to cooperate. One thing, however, remains central to the entire debate. The path that might have kept Jam loyal to his former circle appears, according to this account, to have gradually disappeared before he chose to work with the government. Whether he is ultimately remembered as a betrayer or as someone who felt abandoned first depends largely on which part of the story a person chooses to emphasize. The court, however, will have to consider all of it. And when Casey Hester eventually takes the witness stand in the Lil Durk case, what he says under oath, and how that testimony holds up under cross-examination, will matter far more than the theories, clips, and arguments currently spreading online. The real answers will not come from social media. They will come from the evidence presented in court. And that leaves one final question for everyone following the case.